Good day to you from Costa Rica. I'm Terry Carlile with Howler Magazine, joined again today by our experts from Quatro Legal, bringing you some very important information about KAHA and Rentista and all that's involved with that. And the purpose of this webinar is to provide you quality update information that you can make the best decision possible when it comes to living or visiting here in Costa Rica. Joining me today is Quatro Legal's #1 star for the movie screen and social media, Miss Debbie. Hey, good to see you.
Hi, Terry. How are you?
Doing good today.
That's quite an intro. I'll tell you, that's quite an intro. Thanks for having us and doing this with us today. This is a super important webinar and super important topic. We're going to talk today about the rentista versus the investor, and to help people understand that investor is more than just the real estate category, and then also follow up with how the KAHA plays into those categories. So this is really important. We have a lot of questions all the time about this. So like always, I know you'll say, we need people to like and subscribe and follow us and share, because everybody needs this information, and even if you don't need it, somebody needs it. So it's really great to be here today. And we've got two of our prima classa people here, Sue and Maria Jose, to help us.
Yeah, and this is one of those subjects that we could talk for 2 hours, but
yes,
don't be concerned. We're not going to do that. We're going to hopefully give you some nuggets, some basic information, and then Quatro Legal will be glad to visit with you to explain questions and things like that. So before you think, oh, this is going to be long and drawn out, it won't be. We're going to give you some basic information about this. And at Howler Magazine, we provide a variety of information from real estate to travel and adventure to wildlife, even recipes. And for our legal, Quatro Legal is one of our partners, and it's good to be a part of this podcast with you. And today, I've got Maria and Sue, and tell you what, Sue, tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do there at Quatro Legal, and especially with the KAHA and Rentista.
Hello, Terry. Thank you so much for having us today. Well, my name is Xuala. You guys can call me Sue, of course, and I handle the Social Security registration as well as driver's license matters for our clients here in Quatro. So we're going to talk a little bit about Social Security in a minute.
Okay. And Maria, welcome. First time for you to join us here in the tube. So it's great to have you.
Hi, Terry. Very nice to meet you for the first time. Thank you for having me as well. So my name is Maria Jose, and I'm an immigration specialist here at Quatro. I handle all types of residencies for clients, also citizenship process. So that's basically what I do here.
Okay. Debbie, to start us off, why is this such a complex discussion topic and misconceptions about this category that we're talking about today? Why is that, you think?
Well, I think that part of the biggest issue is that there is so much information on the web, right? Sometimes by the time you've read all the information, you don't know anything. And that's true with any of the categories, and that's true with a lot of things when you start doing research on the internet. But other problem with these categories, especially the rentista, is that most of the information that people are getting out there on the internet is wrong, and it's dated and out of date. And so it's kind of frustrating for people who, they're all excited, they're going to do this rentista option, and then they find out that it's changed. And so we really want to be able to have information out there that's timely, that's cutting edge as to what's going on right now. And the same as with the investor category. you only hear about one subcategory of investor on the internet, and you'll read it 100 times a day. It's the real estate idea, right? Buy real estate. And that's a path, but that's not the only path. And so lots of people want to come to Costa Rica, and lots of people are not pensionados, right? And a lot of people don't have $150,000 immediately to do something with. Plus, everything on the internet nowadays is telling people to rent first. So if you're going to rent, what are your options? And don't get that confused with the word rentista. This is totally different. But renting, if you're just going to rent, you're not buying a property for $150,000. So it's just a really important topic because there's so much information on the internet that's not quite accurate and dated. And so that's why we wanted to bring this today, is so people have an accurate, realistic resource to find out the real way it is nowadays. And
once again, as we've said, and I think every video we've done, is if you ask on Facebook, you're going to get a variety of answers, but it's best to go right to the source. So, yes. Maria, Debbie mentioned some of the changes. What can you tell me about some of the current rules? Tell me in such a way that I can understand on the current rules to qualify for this category of rentista.
Sure thing. So, okay, like Debbie said, there have been some changes on the rentista category, and not everyone is very, familiar with the topic. So nowadays, in order to qualify for the rentista category, you need to prove that either you have passive income from a rental property, or you perceive dividends from a corporation. It's fine if the corporation is abroad. It doesn't necessarily have to be in Costa Rica, but you need to prove that the income that you have is a passive income. It can no longer be just showing that through savings, you have the money in a bank account, either in Costa Rica or somewhere else. So those are the main changes that the rentista category has suffered. And those are the two requirements that applicants have in order to be able to apply.
Okay. So, if my memory serves me correctly, this is just recently that these major changes have happened.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So a lot of people may not be familiar with it or well versed in it. Unfortunately, with Quatro Legal, you have experts that major in this subject. MJ, go ahead.
Also to throw in there, Jose, if you could explain about, because everybody wants to know about the $60,000 deposit, and that isn't a thing now.
Yeah, sure thing. So in the past, once the residency was approved, you needed to provide evidence that you were making deposits of that money, of the $60,000 into a Costa Rican bank account. So nowadays, that is no longer required. That at the end of the process, you start making the deposits into a Costa Rican bank account. That's also part of the change, Debbie. You're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the three subcategories? Real estate, securities, and by shares. Talk a little bit about those three.
Okay, that one is referring to the investor type of residency. Like you said, there are three common ways to apply for an investment here in Costa Rica. Maybe the two most common ones are the one through real estate or through a corporation. But let's go, let's dive into each of them. So through the corporation, most of the clients, when they purchase a property or when they come to Costa Rica and they're thinking about investing in the country, they most of the time set up a corporation here in Costa Rica, for purposes of liability, capital stock gains, stuff like that. So if you have a corporation in Costa Rica, whether the corporation is holding assets or not, because you can just have a corporation without necessarily having a property within the corporation, okay? But if you have a corporation in Costa Rica, you will be able to apply for a residency through the shares that you own within that corporation, okay? Basically, what's required is to prove that that corporation has a capital stock value of $150,000 US. as a minimum, okay? The more shareholders, the higher the capital stock value will have to be. But that's the main rule regarding that part. Like I said, it's okay if the corporation is holding assets or not, because the assets will not be reviewed for purposes of determining the type of investment for your residency process, okay? We're just going to do it through the shares. That's the first type, through the corporation. The second type is through real estate. So another clients, they sometimes decide, no, I don't want to go, through the process of having to create a corporation in Costa Rica, maintaining that corporation up to date and stuff like that. So they just decide to close on a transaction for a property and put the property under their personal names, okay? In that case, then the property will be reviewed by the immigration department in order to know if you can qualify or not for the residency. Something important is that clients always get confused, because usually when they come to me, they say, oh yeah, I purchased the property for $250 or even more, whatever. So yeah, I know I meet the requirement. Purchase price is not what the immigration department will review. What will determine the value of the property, and therefore whether you can qualify or not for the type of residency, is the value that the property has registered at the municipality. So that's something really important to note, because again, sometimes, and this generates quite a confusion. So that's the way to apply through a property under the personal name. And like I said, through this type of category, then the property will have to be reviewed and taken into consideration by the immigration department authorities, okay? And then the one through securities is, or people that can apply, is when you own securities purchased from a SUGEF regulated brokerage firm in Costa Rica. And the amount or value that needs to be held is the same, $150,000, okay? In this case, we're going to need basically a certificate of the brokerage firm indicating the amount of investment in securities, and then through a CPA, we also include that proof. So those are the three types of common ways to apply for a residency as an investor.
Yeah, I think all I, have seen in just my limited view is this category for real estate. But Debbie, are people taking advantage of the investory shares or securities options? Why or why not? What have you discovered?
They certainly are, for more than one reason. We'll talk about Rentista for a moment. The changes in the Rentista have made it very difficult for people to be able to qualify for that category. When it used to be the $60,000 or to have $2,500 from spend anywhere, a lot of people, particularly people working remotely, would be able to qualify for that easily because of the $2,500, right? Well, now it has to come from a rental property somewhere, all of these, or dividends. And so most people don't have that. And the Rentista category, to me, was always something that probably people as families, or people who were, they're not pensioners, right? And they're not looking to buy real estate. And that's where they would fall. That was their category that would fall into, because that would qualify them. One of the things that Sue will talk about is with that Rentista category, the caveat is, because it's a $2,500 a month monthly income, then your KAHA is going to be pretty high. Whereas with other categories, it isn't. And so people are taking advantage of the investor by shares for many reasons. One, they either, they don't have the funds or liquidity to do the 150 in shares, not shares, in the SUHEF and the like the stocks and the securities. They don't have that. They don't have the 150 to buy the real estate, because if they would do one of the two if they did, right? Or they just want to come and rent. They may buy real estate, but they're going to rent for a year or so. So that shares category is something almost anyone can use to apply. and it's a real good category for people that are coming for a lot of reasons. Maybe they want to be in that, for a few years, and then, buy property, and then they could, put the property in that corporation if they want it. Now, there's some things that may have to be done to the value of that corporation if they buy a more expensive property, but it's still a great thing. The other great thing is they'll have their residency, usually before they buy the property, especially if they're going to, rent for a year and then start looking. Well, then there's a lot of tax incentives that they get because they're already a resident, when they buy that property. So it's a very attractive category. The biggest thing is to be able to, to explain it to them in a way that they can understand it, because everyone has read 100 and hundreds probably of articles on investor by real estate. And so when they learn about these other two categories, it's kind of like, I've not read that. So we're really trying to get the word out so people know that just about anybody, can apply for residency. There's going to be a category for them.
Okay. So it's, you mentioned KAHA, and
yes,
Sue's with us, and she's the Quatro Legal KAHA
guru.
Princess of Information, or I'm trying to be creative here on job titles. But Sue, it's great to have you back with us. And for those that are not familiar with KAHA, give us a real quick explanation about
Thank
KAHA.
you, Terry. Thank you, Debbie. Well, yes, I think that sometimes people forget about the registration part of the residency process, right? And that's when problems with the rentista come, right? Because they're not familiarized with how much they're supposed to pay. There's also not a specific procedure in the Social Security Administration here in Costa Rica. So it's a little messy, right? The good thing is that we've practiced a lot with Social Security offices all across the country, because when the approval of this residency comes, one of the most important requirements so our clients can get their residency card is for them to be inscribed or enrolled in the Social Security Administration here in Costa Rica, also known as KAHA. So the first thing we do, right, is that we discuss with the client where we need to register them, but really what we want to do is that we don't want KAHA to hurt their pockets, right? So I'm going to explain a little bit of what happens with the rentista and what happens with the investors, because it's a very big difference, right? So when we get a rentista and they get their approval resolution, you can see on paragraph 2 that it says that they have been approved as rentista because they have proved to the immigration directorate that they have a $2,500 stable rent in the terms that my colleague Maria Jose explained to you guys. So the thing is that when we go to the Social Security registration office, the amount that they will take into consideration to set the monthly fee that they will have to pay will be the amount set by the immigration directorate, right? The $2,500. Now, the other day, we also had an inspector here in KAHA San Jose that was asking for a rentista for even more bank account statements to see if they had a higher income, right? So what we want to do is that we want to show to KAHA the least amount of income that is possible, so they can get the lowest amount for their monthly fee. Now that's where the investors come in, right? Because the investors, which is another reason why I really support this category, is that they get registered with the minimum base, right? Which you can see it on the KAHA website is around $750. So for investors, it's going to be $750. For rentistas, it's going to be $2,500, right? So that means that an investor is going to pay around $80 to $100 into the KAHA system, while a rentista is going to pay almost $400 for the KAHA, right? So it's a really big difference, and it's something that I don't know why people are not very aware that they can apply through the investor category and get a very good deal with KAHA, right? So that's what we're trying to do with all of this webinars and information that we're trying to get out there for clients to understand this a little bit more. Now we must also understand that KAHA will be a part of them for as long as they stay residents here in Costa Rica. So we don't want this to be a burden. We don't want this to be something negative for them. We want this to be something smooth, easy, and of course for it not to hurt their pockets, right?
Okay. Sue, 2 or 3 months ago, you can check back in the webinars here on Quatro Legal's website. Sue did a great job of explaining so many details about KAHA. So make sure you go back and find that. Sue, can you tell us a little bit about how much a rentista would expect to pay per family versus one of the investor subcategories?
Yes, most definitely. As previously mentioned, the rentista is going to pay between $375 up to $400 for a monthly fee. And the investor will pay around from $80 to $100. Also, the thing that happens is KAHA is a very, very big institution. And the thing that happens is that every Social Security office works differently, right? So in Santa Cruz, they are applying a minimum base of $800, while in some other Social Security offices, they're applying a $750 minimum base. I know that it's not a big difference, but it's also something that we need to work with, right? That Social Security offices are different, that they have their own terms, their own rules, and also that the only way that we can guarantee a smooth Social Security registration is by knowing how each of the 85 Social Security offices work, right?
Right. And I would also say, Terry, that if people really thought this through once they now know this, if you're going to pay, I'm a rounder because it's easier math that way, right? You know, if you're going to do a rentista, you're going to be paying $4,800, almost $5,000 a year. Count them, $5,000 a year in KAHA payments, compared to, you know, an investor category. We'll just use the, you know, $100. That's $1,200. Now you're going to be in that for sure until you have your permanent residency, because at that time you could dissolve the corporation, right? So, you know, four times 5 is almost $20,000, you know, whereas 1,200 times 5 is not. And so, you know, and so if you really look at it and do the math, you'll see it's very good for you to, yes, there is another fee besides the residency immigration process for the investor by shares category, because you have to form a corporation, and there are going to be some fees and things you have to do each year until you have permanent to do that. But it's nowhere near the amount it's going to cost you if you do this rentista and have to pay that high amount. I mean, you could just sit down and do the math. And so when people kind of really wrap their heads around it, it just makes good dollars and cents to do.
So sitting here listening to all this, and I hear all these buzzwords and all these this and this and this and this, it can be quite overwhelming, okay? Just to be honest. And I've been around a little bit. Someone like Sue and Maria, you can walk me through at my pace through this whole process painlessly, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're here to help you. We understand that, you know, moving to a different country is a whole new adventure. You don't know the language, you don't know the customs, you don't necessarily know the area. And there are very huge details that, you know, could impact your case. So having someone assisting you and walking you through the process, I think is the most valuable thing that you can get. Because if not, like I said, the process will become overwhelming. You will not know where to go, what to do, what's
Right.
next. So it's going to make the process a lot harder. So Sue, it's just incredible in KAHA. I mean,
Yes,
Sue
she
is really the expert in that topic. And I've seen it with my clients. She handles them and they feel way more comfortable after they had a conversation with Sue regarding KAHA, because this has been a topic that, because again, from everything that you read on Google, expat groups, everyone has something different to say. So it's important to have a good team behind you, walking you through the process and giving you the facts about all the steps that you're taking, so you feel more at ease with the whole process. So yeah, we will both guide you through the whole process from start to end, to make the transition way smoother for you.
Super. Debbie, this has been a fantastic webinar with some,
Thank you.
Like I said, just a nugget when it comes to this topic. And it's going to be a game changer for a lot of people. And as like you already brought out, pay X amount or pay X amount.
Right.
How can people learn more, Debbie, that are watching this?
Well, the best way to learn more is to reach out to Quatro Legal, fill out that you want more information. Then that way, I can talk to you more, and you can learn more and more about what you need to do. I can explain how we guide you and will help you and handle this every step of the way from the beginning through your approval, and even help you understand what you need to do to get your Dimex and to get registered for KAHA and all of that. So they just need to get a hold of us. We do not charge for our initial complimentary session, and you can pretty much ask me anything you need to know. I never get surprised by the questions people have that sometimes have nothing to do with immigration, right? But just get a hold of us and just make sure that when they're talking to people out in the community and they hear something, tell them to go to our site. We have nothing also but tons of YouTube videos where people can learn. It's almost like a university, with so much information. Don't just be going on Facebook groups. Facebook groups are fine for some things, but everybody's there has had an experience. Some people think they know everything and they don't know anything. And you just don't always get all the information you need. So, like and share this, tell your friends, send it to your friends, and we'll make more content, because that's what we want to do. We really want people to learn and understand and know what they're doing and what's going to happen, because they're in for the greatest adventure and the most fun of their life, and we want to help them through that and make it easy for them.
Thank you, Debbie and Sue and Maria Jose, all the whole Quatro Legal group. Thank you for joining us today. And it's good to know that a guy who doesn't know a whole lot can come to you with stupid questions and you will explain it to me. Thank y'all so much. Make sure you like this video, share it with somebody, and that's it for today's session. We'll see you again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. It was so great seeing you, Marie, Jose, and Terry.
Thank you for having us.
Ciao.
Ciao.